Ladies and gentlemen, as we transition from formal deliberations to the fireside chat on multi-domain operations, the intent is to move beyond doctrine and into candid reflection. For this insightful exchange, we have amongst us General Anil Chauhan, Param Vishish Seva Medal, Uttam Yudh Seva Medal, Ati Vishish Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Vishish Seva Medal, Chief of Defence Staff, and one of South Asia's leading strategic analysts, Mr. Nitin Gokhale. I now hand over to Mr. Nitin Gokhale for taking the proceedings forward.
Good evening, ladies. Conduct this fireside chat. I believe, and I just caught some glimpses of the morning sessions on YouTube as I was flying into Bangalore and then later. And certainly a lot of discussions have happened on MDO and various aspects of MDO. But as the world grapples with uncertainty and chaos, warfare is certainly changing as we have known, and of course shifting and evolving as we go along. The pace, I think, is frightening, and therefore the adoption of the new technologies in the Indian context is going to be something different. We live in a varied geography, hostile neighborhood, and it is all the more difficult because of these two factors, at least this is what I believe. And preparing the armed forces for the multiple scenarios is not going to be easy. I think the CDS has a most difficult job, along with the other three service chiefs. Does the answer lie, therefore, in jointness, integration and adaptation? Let's ask the man currently leading the effort to combine the weight of the three armed forces into a combat efficient and effective machine, that is the Indian military. So let me start with you with the question, General Chauhan. You've now spent nearly 3.5 years as India's second Chief of Defence Staff. The journey has been quite eventful, I would say. One of the big events was, of course, Operation Sindoor, but more than that, I think there was a lot of heavy lifting had to be done on procedures, on creating jointness, integration, and then getting structures, the base right for the eventual formation of joint theatre commands. What has been the most memorable, maybe one or two experiences or episodes that you remember? I know there are a lot that you will remember, but if you can highlight that to begin with.
Thank you, Nitin. I think to see the results of one's efforts during his service time, that would have provided me the maximum amount of satisfaction. So in that way, Operation Sindoor can be said as a high point of my tenure as CDS. I think this all happened because, as you rightly said, because of this jointness and integration efforts, which we have undertaken over a long period of time, ever since I took over. This is the bedrock of what you can call as what we are discussing today, multi-domain operations. And this is also essential for what we want to create, integrated theatre commands. Why jointness and integration is important is because of the scale of the activity over which it is involved. See, when we are talking about creation of theatre commands, it was primarily a discussion between service chiefs and me. I had to get consensus between three people, of whatever my ideas were, and probably expand it further to the army commanders or other CNCs, which has happened. But over here, we are looking at complete all three armed forces right up to the last man. So the scale of this was huge. When we started this process of jointness, integration, I don't think we have a common understanding also what is the definition, what do we mean by this particular jointness, what do we mean by integration. Today we have a reasonably good understanding, not only in English, Hindi, Ekikaran and Sayuktikaran. So that's a buzzword, it's part of now our lexicon. So everyone uses it and we understand. In fact, we've taken out a document also for it.
Sure.
Yeah, so not a doctrine, but some kind of an primer. While I said the scale, it was huge, and that's why it's an ongoing process. You can't say that I've finished it or something, but I started it, and it will continue, hopefully. Second thing why it is important is because of the difficulty. Let me say that each service, each of us, Army, Navy, and Air Force, have been created, they have been structured, they have been groomed, they have been motivated to actually excel in their particular domain, and they protect their turf.
True.
And when we talk about jointness and integration, somewhere it impinges upon individual service domains. And acceptability of that, that's a big challenge actually. So that we were able to overcome, and I think we were able to overcome because I tried to change the narrative actually. So like this particular event we're having, future warfare. So that's becoming a reality. Means if you start selling this idea that we get as armed forces, we have to be prepared for future warfare. Services, as I said, they are keen to protect their turf, but they are also keen to win the next combat. And if they know that future warfare is going to be multi-domain, it is going to be, we have to fight jointly together, so that resistance starts crumbling. So it's been a big journey, and this thing was tested during Ops Sindhu, so that gives you a lot of satisfaction. But this is, as I said, it's an ongoing process. I don't see it as an end point of it. It will continue for some more time. So this, I think, is one of the achievements which I think of my tenure as CDS. Second thing is, maybe okay, I'll mention it as part, and this is as part of Chairman Chief of Staff Committee or CDS, Jointness and Integration. The second part I would say is as Secretary DMA, I have been able to kind of institutionalize the role of DMA into MOD, and they have a definite role, and they are part of MOD now. So I'll be able to strengthen that.
Right.
Because it's a new department which was created in the MOD, and unless its roots are very firmly established, become difficult. So that I think is the second big achievement as far as I'm concerned.
Sure. No, DMA, in fact, I just want to spend 1 minute more on that, because DMA looks after the administration, and I think administration is the non-glamorous part of this entire exercise of creating joint theatre commands in a way. So there I think you managed to get a lot of systems in place, a lot of unfinished agendas that or systems that were not catered to by Department of Defense earlier. Is that true? This is what I am hearing.
No, so it is much more than what you are saying actually for DMA. It looks after operational preparedness of the 3 services.
Of course.
So this is slightly different from procurements. So procurement still remains DOD's part, but all 3 services, their operational preparedness. When I say operational preparedness, it is not just sustenance of equipment. It is new structures, organization, their doctrines, new organizations. Everything will be created through DMA.
Also prioritization of...
of procurement. Procurement, etc. also I look after, but that I look after as CDS.
Yes.
But anything which we conceptualize, services or headquarter ideas, finally if it has to take form or shape, that has to go through DMA and get a government sanction. So, and it is true for all 3 services and for headquarter ideas. So that's a big power which has been given to me.
So that empowerment has helped?
Yes, that, this whole thing being together, CDS and DMA, that requirement certainly has helped me to, whatever we thought as reforms was finally getting implemented on ground. That's being done as CDS, not as as Secretary DMA.
As Secretary DMA. That's wonderful, to know, because there was a lot of apprehensions about DMA when it was created, because it was a plus what everybody expected more than that at that point in time when CDS was appointed. But let me move on to multi-domain operations. Since the morning, I think everybody has spoken on different aspects of multi-domain operations. Is going to be, as I think you said when you intervened, I was watching that, about decision superiority. Everybody else has also, or many of them have used this term. But AI is going to be a challenge, or dovetailing AI into decision making is going to be a challenge. How do you propose to use AI in this context, the multi-domain operations and multiple other challenges that come with it?
So Nitin, actually there is not one, AI is only one. There are multiple technologies which are affecting the nature and character of warfare. It could be from stealth, autonomous systems, quantum, but I think AI is that mother of all technologies which is going to integrate. So that way...
It cuts across all the domains.
It cuts across all domains in future. So hence it is important. Warfare If you look at warfare or smallest of combat or engagement, the outcome of all this thing is dependent on two things. One is timely decisions and the correct decisions. These are two things which are important. And they are both interrelated. You can't have a correct decision being taken late. It will not work. So it has to be timely and it has to be correct, and then of course the outcome will be favorable to you. It's here where artificial intelligence is going to help us to take a timely decision and correct decision. Let me expand this further. So we could say that we are moving from net-centric warfare to data-centric to intelligent warfare. When we say net-centric warfare, we are trying to connect the sensors to the shooters. And over a period of time, what's happened, there are a plethora of the sensors are ubiquitous. Hundreds and thousands of sensors of various types are available. So there, if you want to do change detection, you want to find anomalies, etc., so machine learning, etc., will come in. And then we got to connect this to a number of shooters which are there also, which are also expanded. So maybe over here some kind of an automation is required.
Right.
But when we are moving towards data-centric warfare, which is decision superiority,
Yes.
Rather than information superiority.
Correct.
Over here, we are actually looking at past data sets of ours, past decisions. And here there will be requirement of artificial intelligence, some language models and some algorithms, advanced ones, to help you take a correct decision, operational decisions. A step ahead would be intelligent warfare, in which maybe artificial intelligence can be predictive and you can forecast.
Yes.
So hence you will be able to predict things faster. And then your decisions are taken much ahead of before you even say observe a particular thing. So we are artificial intelligence will run through all net-centric, data-centric and intelligent warfare.
Sure.
So what are we, how are we incorporating this and where are we going to use this? I have just given you example of only operational side of artificial intelligence. Its application resides also in maintenance support of equipment, sustenance of equipment, operational logistics, and
Correct.
also HR. All the, in fact, training also. In fact, couple of our training institutions are already using some kind of models of artificial intelligence for the training officers in staff college, CDM, etc. A number of places.
Right.
That's already happening. This all will require 3-4 things. Firstly, we'll have to have large compute power. We are working towards it. Some language models which should be Indian and some advanced algorithms which are how we want to use it. So these are all
train those models also.
That's all I would say work in progress.
Sure. But in that context then, your training you mentioned that should be also in keeping with the needs of the future. So one or two initiatives that you've taken, SAMWAD is one where last year it was people speaking, middle level or senior officers speaking, and generally their presentations were there. This time I've seen CNC level, Army Commander level people have spoken or sort of given the opinion. In that context, future warfare course I thought was a brilliant idea to have senior officers and junior officers rank agnostic working together or training together. How has that progressed and what is that initiative all about? Is it about absorption of technology, adoption of technology? What is that?
So again, I think future warfare is a course which was rank agnostic. It also had a mix of civilians, academician, think tanks, part of this particular course. In fact, even SAMWAD today is not the first edition actually of SAMWAD when we held. They were senior officers because we had opened up the subject to middle and junior level officers to contribute their thoughts. We did not get better responses, but this time we got excellent response. So tomorrow's sessions you will find at least 6 officers, we have middle level, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, Wing Commander, Group Captain level officers. They are going to present their papers. So when we think about future warfare, so it has to be rank agnostic as you said, and at multiple levels we'll have to work and think about.
So I think that's a work in progress again, like all other initiatives in that sense. But when you talk about futuristic wars or future wars, there is, it has to also match with your weaponry, your platforms, use of weapons and platforms, maybe even lessons from the ongoing conflicts have to be dovetailed into the doctrines and implementation. Now, how is that working as far as, your DPM, DAC, when it gives prioritization, the new Defense Acquisition Procedure, DAP, is going to come out. Is that aligning with the need for the future warfare or future wars that are coming in?
So, if you see the past 5 years, I think this must have been the most violent 5 years actually. Yes. We've seen number of conflicts. Ukraine was there. We've seen it in Armenia, Gaza, Iran, us. So there are a number of conflicts, and each conflict has produced its own kind of lessons for us. And new technologies have been there. So we've been able to cope up with this by emergency procurements, which Raksha Mantri had given. And because of that, most of them were used during Operation Sindoor. But we need to institutionalize this process of emergency procurements. So probably in your DAP, you will have a system of fast-track procurements. So that needs to get institutionalized. Also, this kind of technologies which are coming in, they support what I could say, like the revolution in military affairs. The
yes.
First RMA was maneuver warfare.
Right.
Second RMA could be net-centric, and third could be, say, data-centric or intelligent. I just spoke about all these three. And so today when we look at our procurements, our priority should be in the ratio of, say, 70% for maneuver warfare to support maneuver warfare, 20% to support intelligent warfare, and 10% to support intelligent warfare. So, sorry, net-centric and then
data-centric. Yeah.
And 10% for intelligent and data-centric. Now, this is going to get institutionalized.
Sure.
And we have already, even for research and development, our own procurements, this is the kind of format. And this system is slightly different from the earlier paradigm in which we had this 30-40-30 concept of 30% old, 30% contemporary, and 30% niche kind of technology in your weapon system.
Sure.
So your mindset is changing. So you're adopting new technologies. I must also say here that technologies is one thing, but side by side you have to create organization structures, concepts, doctrines. This is a work which has to go parallelly. Just by getting technology and platforms, it may not just work.
Yeah, because if people are not trained, how will they use those technologies? But again, sticking to lessons from different wars, and the latest war, of course, was the Israel-US versus Iran war. What one or two lessons, if you can just, sort of mention offhand, I'm not saying for specifics, but what is it that, because when Armenia, Azerbaijan happened, everybody thought swift, short wars, drone wars are the in thing. Then Russia, Ukraine came, and it's been prolonged 5 years now, almost 4.5 years. But now again this war came. So what is the latest war has taught us really? So let's look at first Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. And that's the first war in which in Nagorno-Karabakh there was use of loiter ammunition and drones by one side, and the war was very, very swift, and people said that this is a riot. Ukraine war was, although it started earlier, in 22, but after that you find actually a revolution in the kind of drones which were being there. So you had this first-person drones, you had intelligent drones, you had long-range drones, you have stealth drones, you had drones on surface, on water, underwater. And so this multiple technologies on use of drone warfare and loiter ammunition exploded. Yes.
And it was also in some manner that maneuver warfare which was tried initially, that did not work out, and finally it resulted,
for Russia it didn't work out. Yes.
It resulted in some kind of a stalemate. As far as the current warfare is concerned, the war which is presently under ceasefire, it's too early to comment upon the large number of lessons that we will draw out. But over here again you find different set of technologies being used. So over here we know that artificial intelligence has come in a big way, and Americans have used it in targeting, etc. ISR, constant, and so have the Israelis. So these are new technologies which have been used in this particular warfare. Also I must add that these technologies may have allowed us, the Americans or the Israelis, to win specific combat missions. at operational level, at tactical level.
Right.
But somewhere the larger picture, that geography and strategy is important, that is Iran's probably has used that. So they used the importance of geography, Hormuz, that was one. And the strategy which they developed of what you call as mosaic, the distributed command architecture, independent. Dispersed command architecture. So that's the strategy which they used against this. They're probably preparing for such kind of a conflict, having built a lot of underground facilities and stored a lot of missiles.
And missile, in fact, they also targeted very precisely American facilities and otherwise in those, Gulf countries, because nobody thought they would target military targets in the Gulf countries in that sense. But about Operation Sindoor, just one thought on that. Precision weapons were also very useful for India. Long-range vectors also proved to be lethal. And in our case against Pakistan, we used their geography to our advantage because they don't have depth. So like you said, Strait of Hormuz was used by Iran to their advantage. We can also use it. But we are in a hostile neighborhood with two adversaries, primary and secondary. And terrain, as far as we are concerned in the mountains, is also one of the challenges. How do you, sort of overcome the terrain challenge or take the terrain as an advantage?
Maybe, geography is there. We can't change that kind of a geography. Our two adversaries, both of them, we have some kind of a land dispute.
Right.
They are also nuclear weapon states.
Correct.
So that has got its own dynamics in kind of strategies. So today's discussions have focused on only the theoretical aspects of future warfare.
Yes.
So we said about technologies, how are they going to be used, how are they going to influence future warfare. Its practical application, that particular part is also important, because the way geopolitics is playing out, there's a lot of uncertainty, and probably the next, like I said, the past 5 years have been full of conflicts.
Violence, yeah.
One never knows, the next 5 years may also be, there's a proclivity based nations to use force, and that may continue. So how will, and what kind of wars, what kind of nature of, duration of wars, where will they happen? That all is dependent on geopolitics.
Sure.
A part of it, and maybe geoeconomics may decide your supply chains, and
correct.
Technology may decide outcome of war. Geography will remain constant, and the aspect that we have two nuclear armed neighbors. One is a nuclear weapon state, one is a nuclear armed state. So that also is a reality we must factor in.
Yes, we will come to that, but you have released the Defence Forces Vision 2047 recently, which talks about, I think that slogan was Sashakt, Surakshit and Viksit Bharat. What was the thought behind the, that vision which was released, that booklet that you have released? And that includes so many newer domains in it, cyber, on the 6 domains that have been spoken about. But cognitive is something that I am more interested in. So maybe in 2 parts if you can answer. What was the vision thought and why cognitive?
So actually the vision document, we had circulated it in the morning, and the vision statement is there, if I recall, is to be integrated all domain force, dynamic and self-reliant in thoughts.
There is also a dynamic response strategy that you have spoken about.
Yes. So when we talk about vision, so the security of the nation, it's the responsibility of all citizens. It's not only the armed forces. So when we wrote this particular vision, it is not that we wrote it in isolation. The defense forces have not written this, conceptualized this vision into armed forces. We have taken all departments of the Ministry of Defense on board. We have also circulated this vision to the National Security Council Secretariat. Also given it to Niti Aayog for some kind of comments, because they are working on the national vision. So it incorporates all those efforts, because ultimately fighting war is not only specific to services. You may say that armed forces may be the last instrument of last resort, but that's not the only instrument. There are other instruments available to the government. So that is one part. So it's been vetted. Second, what we have released is the open part, of the document. So there is a restricted part of this document from vision to action, which lays down the roadmap, the responsibilities and the timelines which we want to achieve in those 8 strategic verticals which have been given. So readiness and op responsiveness, capability development and sustenance, strategic culture, HR. So all these 8 verticals are there, in which we have specific areas where we are going to work.
True.
So specifically cognitive warfare is part, will find somewhere in this capabilities, one of those 8
So
or
it
9.
is along with electromagnetic and others, those 6 domains that you've spoken about.
So if you want me to elaborate on cognitive warfare.
Yes, a little bit on that, and then I'll come to what I was going to ask you about whole of nation approach, but that I'll come the next question, but maybe cognitive warfare a little bit.
So I'll give you my understanding. It's again an evolving field of warfare, and what little lessons we learned from Operation Sindoor, we want to incorporate in future structures of ours and future concepts of ours in this. So there is, I may divide this, my understanding of perception management and cognitive warfare in 2 parts. One is purely perception management, which is a function which happens every time. The services have been at it for a very long time. Each one has a STATCOM division, Army, Navy and Air Force, and they're working wonderfully well. So maybe what we need to do is focus and channelize their efforts, so that everyone is in unison. We are not going to impinge upon their STATCOM. That is one part, and it happens during peacetime. Cognitive warfare, I think, is to use this particular domain along with kinetic operations during war. So that, I think, is important, and that has got 2 components. One is to combat fake news, which today's morning session also, I think one of the speakers
I think the CIS spoke about that also in the morning.
Some time wasted in this. So how do we combat fake news, etc.? And this doesn't waste the time of operational commanders. It should be an automated process. It should be like a taker coming on a television. So you pick up whatever news is on the social media, electronic media or digital media, and then get someone who's the right man to actually say that it's correct.
It could be any specialist also.
So in real time to do it, that is where we'll create some kind of a structure. And of course, we also want to use this as part of your offensive operations in future. So it's a developing concept. I really may not have all the answer right now, but as we progress, we'll create structures for this.
So 2 things are from all deriving out of Operation Sindoor. One is the Prime Minister saying that this is a new normal, what we did in Operation Sindoor, what India did in Operation Sindoor, and the shift over the past some years now, several years, from a reactive strategy to a proactive strategy, which is domain agnostic, non-linear, that kind of thing. These 2 questions I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on what is the new normal that you interpret the Prime Minister's direction or maybe even his policy, that this is a new normal. And when you talk about, when we say that India has now become proactive, what do we mean by being proactive? These 2.
Okay, so after Operation Sindoor, politically the new normal which we derive from statements like any cross-border terrorism will be responded to. That is one. Second, India will not make any difference between perpetrators of terror and their handlers. That's the second thing. The third thing which the Prime Minister said that India will not be blackmailed, will not be nuclear blackmail. So the new normal then actually falls into 2 categories. One is in conventional warfare or sub-conventional warfare, and second is at the extreme end, that's in the nuclear domain, strategic domain, if I could say. So as far as the first part is concerned, so we'll require some kind of persistent surveillance efforts. We'll have to have readiness levels which are 24/7, 365 days. I don't know, we all had this document, Raksha Mantri's Op Directive, and somewhere over there it lays down that the government will give us some kind of a reaction time in case there is hostilities to break out.
Which may not be true anymore.
So maybe, I can't disclose what can be the time given, but 30, 40, 70, 80 days. So these are the kind of timelines which have been given. Now, are they relevant today? I don't think so they're relevant anymore. That's the new normal.
That's the new normal.
As far as conventional operations is concerned, even for it lays down how many days of hostilities or fight. I think that with kind of warfare which is changing, you'll have to relook at such kind of timelines. As far as the new normal in the strategic domain is concerned, again, there are two aspects to it. Nuclear weapons, we say, are weapons of deterrence. So, means we all know that India's nuclear doctrine rests on two pillars of no first use and massive retaliation. So, we need to strengthen that particular part. So, once deterrence is strong, that's why we're saying that we won't be deterred by nuclear threat. So, that I think is important. Second part is, should deterrence fail, then our forces should be able to, in my view, continue conventional operations in a contaminated environment to achieve those.
So that is another aim.
That is what I understand as a new normal.
Sure.
And the strategic domain.
Correct. But the strategic non-nuclear deterrence is also a new thing that needs
before
to be
that you asked something about proactive strategies.
Proactive, yes. Reactive and proactive.
So, reactive and proactive strategies. So, earlier I think there's a lot of material on, after this terror strikes, etc., on cold start strategies and all that. What's happening is, last time I was talking about deterrence and nuclear weapons.
Yes.
So, which creates some kind of an strategic stability amongst nations.
True.
The availability of nuclear weapons.
Correct.
This also creates instability at the lower level. It leads to terrorism, can lead to grey zone warfare, and our Western adversary has been using this.
Right.
To counter that, we earlier thought of a proactive strategy in media outside it was known as cold start and things like that.
Right.
Today we are talking about a dynamic response strategy.
Right.
That means when we say response, it's assured. That will happen. That's part of the new norm.
Yes.
Which we say.
Dynamic response.
And when we say dynamic, it will be proportionate, it will be just. When we say dynamic response, it does not negate the strategy of cold start or other conventional strategies. It only supplements it.
Okay.
So we want to have a dynamic response at every level of escalation and minute. So that my understanding of dynamic, it's not the first reaction which is a dynamic response. It is at every level of escalation there will be a dynamic response. So it is going to supplement the earlier strategies.
True.
And not replacing them.
Not replacing them. But that's important to understand because even during Sindoor, you would have worked out all the leadership, the military leadership and the political leadership, or at least, when you sat with the NSA, escalation ladder or escalation response to Pakistan's responses. How did they work out as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned?
So it was not just selection of targets and hitting them on 7th. So we had worked out some kind of an possible escalation, almost about 4 or 5 levels of the escalations and what should be our response in each level. And basically in this whole issue of escalation, there were 2 principles which I thought that were relevant and I had been emphasizing on the services. That one is we need to keep the channel of communication open so that it doesn't spiral out of control. That is one. And second thing is that any kind of an escalation has to end with our response. We have to end it.
So we end the war or we end
the last ladder of escalation will be conducted by us. So that were 2 principles which we followed.
So actually,
and we maintained that during Sindoor.
To stop Operation Sindoor when we did was actually now in retrospect when you see what is happening to the US and Israel, they don't know how to get out of the war. I think Operation Sindoor is a great example of terminating the war on your terms.
Yeah. So since our operational objectives had been achieved, that had been laid down, since we had achieved that and that was laid down right in the beginning in a proper communication to Pakistan by the DGM.
Right.
That we've hit,
on the first day, immediately after the first strike.
First strike.
Yeah.
So once they offered this talk, so obviously operation stopped. And in hindsight, as you said, it's been good.
It was good. So, the question of the day or question of the evening basically is what everyone is waiting for, especially my friends in the media here, is in January when we spoke in Pune, you spoke about finalizing joint theatre commands before you step down or you superannuate in May. What has been the progress since then in the last 2 or 3 months, and what is the roadmap, what is the timeline?
Okay, so you all know that we've been carrying out this discussion on what's the best possible method to implement this theatre command model for us. And this has been going on under the rubric of Operation Tiranga, some kind of closed door discussions between the chiefs. So I've had discussions now with 6 chiefs, not 3, and 3 CISCs have been involved into it. We've taken these discussions forward in the last CCC. It was discussed with CNCs also, so it's expanded. And today when service chiefs are writing or we are discussing, they're using the help of a lot of staff officers, so it's not restricted to only a service chief. So there's a lot of information which is available on this, what the thought process is on creation of theatre commands amongst a lot of officers. So that I think is one part. We must keep it in mind. So it's not one view.
It is percolated down.
It's percolated down, it's a considered view. And where are we as far as thing is concerned? So let me say that there are 2 things in theatre commands. One is this concept, and one is this manifestation, how it will manifest. So when we say theatre commands is a concept in which we are trying to separate out force application and force generation. This concept, no service has any doubt on this particular aspect that this theatre command model has to be done and this has to be separated out.
There is a consensus on that.
100%.
Yes.
Means no service is saying that this is not to be done.
True.
So for that, I think people should be assured that there's 100% consensus on this in writing and discussions and recordings of ours. It's on the manifestation, how are we going to implement it?
Sure.
There remain some differences. So let me say that there remain some differences, but these discussions on Operation Tiranga to resolve all differences have been concluded. Means,
Okay, but let me stop you here. Operation Tiranga is the discussions on joint theatre commands.
Yeah.
Right?
And all those discussions then had, wherever we arrive at consensus, got to the Chiefs of Staff Committee to take as a formal decision. And then it got recorded, etc.
They have concluded, you're saying?
Op Tiranga discussions have been concluded.
Okay.
And we have agreed that these differences being there, still will proceed ahead with the recommendations to the government that we need to implement this particular concept. I'm sure these, whatever little differences in its manifestation are there, will get resolved over a period of time. So hopefully I should be able to compile my 3rd report of Operation Tiranga, another 1 week or so, and then be ready to present it to the government. So from our side, services side, this particular part would be done. And now we have to take it up to the Raksha Mantri, we may have to take it up with the CCS to get this thing implemented.
Operationalize.
Operationalize it, or first is to tell them as to what we want to do.
And get their feedback.
Get their feedback, get their views, and then, so we are at that stage. Right.
I see. That's good to know. There's some progress from January, definitely.
Yeah, so we've concluded our discussion.
Concluded your discussion, definitely. So I think from my side, I have actually concluded. We got at least another 15 minutes, and you have kindly agreed to take questions from the audience. So maybe we'll take a set of 3 questions first, and then see whether we have time.
Yeah.
Accordingly, so questions are welcome. Anyone? Right there, General Pavan Anand is one, Admiral Chawla, and who else?
Raju.
So I think
Raju.
Yeah, okay. I'll start with General Pavan Anand first, and then come to you, and then Admiral Chawla.
Good evening, sir, the CDS, and hello, Nitin. So the question is, actually a little bit away, maybe a part digression from MDO or the discussion that we had today, but would be related when I finish with it. I think the most important thing for us is capability development when we talk about various kinds of operations that we are envisaging. Technology is changing faster than we can imagine. Technology is definitely changing faster than our procurement system. And then our procurement system has been divided into various parts, and you just mentioned that there will be a faster track for procurement. If we are going to keep resorting to emergency procurements, then something is certainly broken in our regular procurement system. And having recognized that, we are going for these fast-track procurements. When I look at the faster technologies which are indigenously available, especially digital technologies, there seems to be no process, even in the latest DAP which is coming out. The draft is out, and we find nothing of that over there. Is it time for us from the armed forces to get involved with the DoD to ensure that the DAP brings in technologies which are coming in over 6 months or 1 year periods, so that we can catch up rather than remaining always in a lag period? If we don't do that, then what are the risks that we face?
General Raju, I think.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, I would like to thank the CDS for giving the update on the progress that has been made on the theaterization, because when we talk of MDO, multi-domain operations, I think theaterization are completely interrelated, because if you are looking at combining Army, Navy, Air Force along with information, cyber, industry, all elements of the government, we need a common leadership. And theaterization is going to give that unique platform or unique capacity to apportion one leader with the responsibilities. My question is about, one of the speakers in the morning spoke about present operations being extremely complex, and that individual will not be able to handle it. You know, we have a large country, and the Prime Minister of India is one, and he handles 50 departments or 50 ministries. So how do we change the mindset of our own leadership to say that what we are attempting or the direction that we are going is a doable proposition? That one leader with his team of experts around him will be able to conduct successfully the operations and with the right intent. Thank you, sir.
Admiral Chawla.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for the update. My question relates to the formulation of the theatre commands that you talked about. If you recollect that almost 7 years ago when we started this exercise, when General Rawat was the CDS, the first agenda had been the Integrated Air Defense Command. And today we have seen in all the conflicts, when we talk about drones and missile warfare, that air defense, which is of course squarely the domain of the Indian Air Force, has become one of the most critical factors in modern warfare. So are we looking at the Integrated Air Defense Command also in this formulation, if that can be explained? Thank you.
Yeah.
Answers to these three questions.
The first question was related to technology and its incorporation in the real time. And that speaker had said that, if we should not resort to EP. I never said that was one-time measure. We want to include this fast-track procedure into our particular system. Every kind of induction which we do in the armed forces is based on forecasting as to what will happen in future. That's important. And earlier this was based on LTIPP, which we used to aggregate. Now we're changing the system to ICDP, Integrated Capability Development Plan, which has got a 10-year horizon. That itself is quite long. Which may translate to 2 years APP. So what we need to do, in my view, is to keep at least about 30% of our budgets on the site, reserves, which will be not related to ICDP in future. That will be related to this unforeseen kind of circumstances to incorporate this. So that I think is important, because ICDP, even if you make it the 10-year horizon, I think it's too long, and technology will change during this time. The two questions after that are related to Theatre Command. I think that's the subject which interests most of us in uniform. Yes, warfare is becoming complex, etc. And no one is trained, so we have to train ourselves. Unfortunately, we have worked only in silos and we are specialists in a particular domain or particular service. Now, unless we have the experience, wider experience, of other services, other government organizations who are involved in the issue of defense on the country or security of the country, we will fail actually. So this exposure has to come in through our training academies, mid-level officers and upwards. So today when we say that services are structured, organized, groomed, created to bring efficiency to fighting in that particular domain. So anyone who is a mid-level officer in that service, it is his bread and butter to look after that particular service and protect that particular domain. But the moment you become, say, 2-star or 3 stars, you should start questioning it actually. That should be the level of maturity and not protecting that particular domain. So that thing should come out voluntarily, and these initiatives like future warfare courses, run SAMWAD, future frequent interaction between the services is paving way for that, I would say. Admiral Chawla's question regarding Air Defence Command, I think there are two fundamental things, Chawla, over here. Your offensive and defensive operations in the air domain are closely interlinked, and you cannot have something which is entirely separated out. So hence this point of Air Defence Command, etc., had been shelved right at the beginning. Notwithstanding the importance of air defense which has come in because of large number of vectors which are now available in the lower airspace and also in near space. So this spectrum has increased. So today means, as we say, and I spoke about operational preparedness, 24/7, etc. That's we are doing. So today your JADCs, which used to get operationalized during mobilization or something, they're all functional today, and they'll be functional throughout. All JADCs with enhanced manpower are going to remain functional because of this importance of air defense. Number of applications are being made to help us, airspace management, flying of drones, etc., our EW assets, etc. So there is no fratricide in this particular domain are being developed, being tried out, and regularly being fielded for people. So it has to work in an integrated kind of a structure. All should be responsible for this. It cannot be that a separate command is required for air defense. So that thought process was there earlier. We've shelved that.
Okay, we have time for a set of another 3 questions. Sorry if I am not, yes, Admiral KB Singh, General AK, and who else? And Admiral Monty Khanna there, I've just spotted.
Okay.
And then
I can think on my feet maybe.
No.
So regarding this acquisition process, it's a big bugbear. There are 2 things I want to whatever I've read after retirement, and it's made sense to me. One is that our DAP was mainly when we were acquiring products from abroad. And we were acquiring, now we've got to acquire capabilities and we have to be a stakeholder along with the industry. So this entire concept has to change, the DAP part, wherein you are looking at somebody producing something to you. You have to co-produce, co-develop with your own industry. So when you read things like the SPEED Act, 2025 of the US, I did a study on that compared to our DAP. There, the service is getting into, in collaboration with industry, getting into the, components of each platform that they want to get. So they're going into that kind of detail rather than expecting everything as a finished product and then only talking about procedures. So this is one area where we've tried to, though the SPEED Act 2025, mind you, the US bureaucrats have killed in many ways. But the fact on ground is that there is a different thinking that is involved in between DAP and actually acquiring capabilities. Second issue is when we get into data-centric and, like you mentioned, algorithmic warfare, etc., all systems are going to be software intensive. A software differs from hardware. Hardware is a finished product that you get. A software is always, is always iterative by nature. It's like a potter's clay. You're all the time adjusting 1.0, 2.0, upgrades. So you cannot ask for a product. You need to have a completely different acquisition pathway. Like the Israelis and the US have got an accelerated acquisition pathway for software induction. So I was just wondering whether we can think on these lines and make a major adjustment in our acquisition processes. Otherwise, our acquisition processes are for acquiring something 5 years hence, which is not going to work in the way technology is moving. Thank you.
General AK, and then I think Admiral Monty Khanna, and then we'll take one bonus question. Vice Marshal Bahadur has also raised his hand, but let's see how much time we have.
Sir, we are all privy to, mammoth changes, sir, and the work that has been done in getting this jointness leading on to integrations. Hindi में बड़ा सुंदर शब्द है sir, गतिज. I think what's important now is to sort of act with speed, because we know, sir, what all things are happening around. Do we have the time, or do we have, to walk this path the way we have been walking path? And I'm saying and I'm admitting that there is a lot that has been done. I think what is important today is this gatis. And the second thing is the change in the mindsets. I think we are still very process driven. We are not outcome oriented. And that's where I come to Admiral Karambe's point, because especially the DAP, it's a very good time now in 2025 so that the DAP is getting revised. I think this is the golden time for us to make sure that this DAP is not process driven but outcome oriented. There has to be evolutionary thing. Another thing, sir, which I would also, because for MDO again, what is important is a civil-military fusions. And civil-military fusion will not come only by theories. I think if we have national war game, a concept of national war game, then only I think the other ministries and the department would know as to what is the expectation that the armed forces have from them. Armed forces would know, sir, what is the capability that a ministry has. And I think that's possible, and every year if we do it, I think that's how the civil-military fusion possibly can take place. Thank you, sir.
Admiral Monty Khanna.
Sir, one thing which has really come out in recent conflicts is the importance of long-range strikes. And long-range vectors currently are distributed across all three services. So are we also looking at, integrating these into a rocket force or something equivalent? And how will this sort of roll into be integrated with the theaterized structures?
You want to take Vice Marshal Bahadur's question? Yes.
Sir, good evening. Everything is based on education, all of us. So that's the bedrock. And it's so good to see that joint vision document that we would come up with the National Defense University. What's the status on that, sir? Because that's 2047, the vision. The foundation stone was laid in 2012. So where do we stand, sir?
Okay, I think we'll conclude here, but all yours.
So the second lot of questions, actually two were suggestions largely, and they were just two questions. And so we've taken the suggestions quite well, sir, whatever you said. So we all aware that, acquisition process DAP was created to procure platforms. It's not created to acquire technology, as you said, or software, which is always incremental, its approach. And it followed, what has been laid down in a GSQR, we'll buy this. So we'll make some concessions that even if you are 90%, 80% there, that will help spiral kind of a development. So that may be there in the DAP. We'll also try and see that technology induction is part of this particular DAP, and tactics-led modernization. We are also looking at a future warfare operational group that may help towards this end as to what kind of process we follow to acquire new technologies. General AK's suggestion was also towards that, Disha or Gati, not only Gati, Disha, both. So I think both are important. As far as civil military fusion and wargaming is concerned, means I couldn't agree more with you. But first we need to have a tri-services war games, tri-services exercise. We should get our house in order. Till now, means you've been there, you just left the army about a year back, 1.5 years back. Most of the war games, etc., are done by commands. And the chief goes and that's how it's been. There are very few war games between us first. So let's sort that thing out first, then we'll take up to the national level. Regarding Admiral Monty Khanna's this thing, there would be a requirement to integrate the effects of these long-range strikes because these platforms are there. There are some issues, whether such kind of weapons which are released from specific platforms which are there in the sea or in the air, whose ownership is that. We are trying to resolve this issues. I think Ops branch of Headquarter IDS is looking at it. And we'll have some kind of a structures in future for this particular capability. As far as NDU is concerned, sir, I'd like to answer this question over our social gathering.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it.
That's it. I think one final thought from you on this. You just spoke about the rocket force, not exactly rocket force, but combining all the long-range vectors in some kind of a form. The Pakistanis have announced a rocket force, but I think the thought process in Indian military began for a rocket force much earlier, isn't it? That's one clarification I wanted. If I remember correctly, 3-4 years ago it was talked about, or how was it?
No. So we have, following a particular doctrine that we don't want to create this confusion. All our ballistic missiles are with strategic warheads. They were not designed for conventional warheads. That thing, if I can say, stands till today. But we have at similar ranges cruise hypersonics.
Yes.
That we may develop with conventional warheads. We use this capability during Operation Sindoor.
Yeah.
When will we change this? It's a moot question.
Sure. Okay, on that note, I must thank General Anil Chauhan. I think he deserves a round of applause, a big round of applause. And thank you very much for being a very involved audience. I hope we had a good discussion. So thank you, General. Thank you very much for your time and your answers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights and expertise at the fireside chat. We greatly appreciate your time and thoughtful perspectives in enriching the discussion. May I now request Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Training Command, to hand over the Run SAMWAD memento to Mr. Nitin Gokhale.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.